On the 14th of November 2005, just 6 days after I was called to the Nigerian bar and 2 days after my elder brother's wedding, I was driving in the Zone 1 area of Abuja with my friends Chisom Mbono Ezoke, and Ofem, when an unmarked car drove ahead of us and blocked my car off. Then a man in plain clothes came out of the car with a gun and pointed it at us. Of course, my instincts kicked in, and I thought he was an armed robber, so I kind of found a way to maneuver and speed off. He jumped in his car and chased after us. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I just kept driving. And at some point, we found ourselves on the Olusegun Obasanjo Way when we noticed he had chased us into an ambush laid by policemen. Well, at least there was a police truck parked right beside what looked like 6 to 10 men holding guns and blocking the road. And then in what is still the most chilling moment of my entire life, we watched the men raise their guns at us and open fire. We found out later that there had been several reported robbery cases in the area at the time, and our dead bodies would have been paraded as the guilty armed robbers. Now, 15 years later, on the 3rd of October 2020, a young man, Joshua Ambrose, was allegedly thrown out of a moving car by members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad in Ughelli in Delta State, and that has sparked off the current End SARS protests. Thankfully, none of us in the car that night in Abuja in 2005 died, even though Ofem was hit by a bullet on his shoulder, and he still carries the scars to this day. He has gone on to do so many things, including being the MD of Smart City Lagos. Chisom, who was also in the car, is now a leading presenter on SuperSport. But many other Nigerians haven't been as lucky as us to stay alive today and fulfill their dreams. Kolade Johnson was killed by the police. Anita Akapsin was killed. Chijoke Iloanya was killed. Musab Samani was killed. Tina Ezekwe was killed, and thousands more. So when Nigerians talk about End SARS, it's not just a hashtag on Twitter. It has been our reality for far too long. Yes, the government has disbanded the police unit, but even after that, more Nigerians have been killed as peaceful protests continue across the country. Jimo Ishiak, Ikechukwu Iloamozo, and many more have died even as government has given the police orders to stand down. As recently as yesterday, more lives were lost in Osogbo. This is not a political movement. It's literally Nigerians telling the government to give them a chance to just be alive. It's the most fundamental human right, and everyone has earned that right. So the government must be seen to be acting and not just speaking, because as long as the words of those in authority don't match what Nigerians see on the streets, trust will continue to slip away. And hopefully, this does not continue to be the case for much longer. We're going to be discussing the End SARS protests and all that's been happening across the country, and I'm joined here by Awazi and Tomi. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Ebuka.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's been a very emotional, tough, painful, angry week for a lot of people. Tell us why you have been a part of this and what it means for you.
Well, like you said, just opening up the show, I've been a part of this because I'm trying not to die. I realize that for a majority of us that are still alive today, that have not had like very hard personal encounters with SARS, it's simply because of sheer luck. It's not because of access. It's not because of privilege, because there are privileged people who have had their loved ones or themselves be in these positions. So it's crazy that taxpayers' money is going to fund a unit of the police or the entire police force, and instead of protecting us, they're killing us, brutalizing us, raping us, among other things.
Yeah. So there's a belief that, there's people have said government has responded in some measure, and they have. SARS has been disbanded, and they've repeated that continuously in the last week plus, saying the unit has been disbanded. We've seen, the fact that a few police officers have been either fired or demoted or even arrested or whatever it is. But Nigerians are still protesting, saying it seems like government isn't listening. What are they not listening to? Okay,
it's the reason from where I'm standing and from the protests I've been at, the people I've spoken to, I would say that the government has said the things that they've said now. They've said it at least 4 times in the last 4 years. All they have done is talk, talk, talk. They've told us that we are going to do this, we're going to do that, we have done this, we have disbanded, we have reformed, among other things. But we have never seen that actually happen. So this time, people are like, okay, you've said you've disbanded these people, but now you want to come and bring SWAT. How? That's dead on arrival. First of all, that unit already exists and has existed at least for the last 2 years. And secondly, why are you giving these same men that we're saying are deranged, why are you arming them with special weapons? Why are you teaching them tactics? They've said that they're not deploying the SARS officials to that unit anymore. We're saying, okay, no problem. These officials that you're saying you're disbanding, are you still integrating them into the same police force? Because all they're going to do is put on a uniform and do the exact same things.
Yeah.
So we're not asking for that. What we're looking for is that the killer cops be held accountable.
Yeah.
The people that have committed these crimes, because they are crimes. It's not enough to say, I'm dismissing this officer, or I'm letting them go, demoting them. We're not looking for that. We're looking for them to be charged. They're criminals. The criminals that they accuse us of being for just existing on the streets as Nigerian youth, they are the criminals.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest eye-opening moments for me in this entire protest has been how organic it has been.
Yes.
We're seeing protests across the country. And one of the biggest flashpoints has been Abuja, and we're joined now from Abuja by Tomi Banure, who has been a key part of the protest there in Abuja. Tomi, tell me how things have evolved in Abuja. Last Sunday, I did have Ndikato here, and she was talking about tear gas and water cannons and all of that. How has the past week been since then?
Hello, Ibuka. It's been, as you said, completely organic here in Abuja. You have people who've taken time out of work, who have dedicated themselves to fighting this disease, essentially. We've organized ourselves in the sense that we have people dealing with accounts, people dealing with logistics. You have people who are trained in the medical field or doctors in their own rights, who have taken it upon themselves to take care of the ailing and the people who've been cut down during these protests. Honestly, it's been an eye-opening moment. The youth of Nigeria have banded together in a way that, frankly speaking, I've never seen before. We have come together, taken it upon themselves. In the places where the government has failed us, we've stepped up to the plate, essentially shown them how an effective government can be run. We've developed our own ecosystem, we're self-sufficient, despite the blatant efforts by the government to cut us down. They've tried to shut off our funding. We found ways around that. Luckily, we have technology on our side, and frankly speaking,
So, I mean, Abuja is in a very unique position because it's one of those cities that really doesn't have a governor, an elected official at the head who you can speak to. I mean, we've seen Lagos State, we've seen a couple of states across the country where governors have either joined the protest or addressed the protest. Some have even started acting on some of the demands of the protesters. Who do you get a sense is listening to you in Abuja?
Honestly, we've been trying to speak to the IGP for over a week now. We haven't been addressed directly by the IGP. We've had the vice president address us on social media. We would rather be addressed via live broadcast on television, not for only ourselves to see on Twitter, but for the world to see at large. You have Nigerians living, 40% of us, under the poverty line. Not so many people have access to social media. The vice president addressed us on social media. Not everyone has Twitter.
I'm going to come back to you, Tomi.
We'd like to be addressed.
Let me come to you, Awazi. I mean, a lot of people have talked about, this, the fact that demands have been met. And the government, I mean, we've seen the Lagos State governor almost speak to us almost every day on social media, at least, talking about, we've arrested these people, we've demoted these people. And we also had Mr. President, what looked like, I think it was about almost a 2-minute clip that we saw on Twitter sometime during the week. Why is this address on live television so important? What does it do for the protests, or at least for the demands, to sort of be seen to be met?
Right. So every single time people come and talk to us on social media, we see that they're talking. But again, talk, no action. It was on social media they told us that they've told the police officers to stand down, but they're still attacking protesters. They should come on national television. People who don't have access to social media should see that. Nigerians should see that we're being taken seriously and that our lives actually matter.
Yeah.
The president gave us a 2-minute clip on social media and just, glossed around the matter. I don't think that he addressed anything that was, spot on. None of them have mentioned the name of one person that has been killed by SARS. Are we only statistics? Do we not matter? We've said the names of these people time and again. There are projectors everywhere saying the names. Jimo just died a few days ago. His name is not mentioned by anybody, not even by his governor on national television. They've said it on social media, and it's easy to copy and paste, but we need to know that you are there. And also, like I said, and I will keep saying, enough talk. Let's see you do. We're tired of all the... It's okay.
Yeah.
4 times in the last 4 years, it's enough.
So there's a belief that, the belief is that this movement is very youth-based. Young people are driving this, and they're driving it on Twitter. So why not address them on Twitter? Is that a valid argument?
I think that we're driving it on Twitter and social media because we realize that these are the tools that are most powerful for us. We have tried other ways, and we have seen that they've not been very effective. We also know that, and this might not even end up nicely with anyone, but we also know that the government controls the press in Nigeria as independent as the press says they are.
Yeah.
There are sanctions, there are things in place. So no matter how we try to put our voices out there, social media is going to be the most accurate and the easiest way we can get our word out there and also affect other people around the world. Call attention. It is social media that we have used to crowdfund. It is social media that we have used to reach international media. It is social media we have reached to use influential leaders around the world. And we're getting attention, but it is not enough to talk to us there.
Yeah.
Come and talk. We're here. We're your people. We put you there.
Yeah. Tomi, let me come back to you in Abuja now. What do you think is going to make a difference at this point? Because we're going into our 3rd week now, it looks like, of these protests. People have been thinking, they can't sustain it for this long, but the protests still seem to be going on. We don't seem to know if it's going to go on any much longer or shorter, or if whatever is going to end. But what do you think is going to be sort of a dampener for people, from government at least, or something to sort of assuage people going forward at this point?
It's very simple, honestly speaking. We've tabled our demands, which are the 5 for 5. We demand the immediate release of all protesters. We demand adequate pay for the police so they can actually and actively take on their actual duties, which is protecting lives and citizens. We want an independent panel to psychoanalyze and conduct tests to retrain the police of the SARS if they're eventually going to be put back into the police force. We've tabled our 5 for 5. There's a list of demands already.
Yes.
And once these are met, then we see where that goes.
That's also the argument, because, you're on social media, I'm sure, and you see a lot of the hashtags. A lot of other hashtags have started creeping up as well. We're seeing hashtag end bad governance, police reforms. Just a lot of these other hashtags that have sort of started becoming a part of the conversation. And there's a belief that these 5 demands get met and it becomes other things. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, as it should be. The NSARS movement is simply the genesis. It's simply the start of the reform of Nigeria as a whole. It's the start of a new Nigeria. It was what's needed to happen for the youth to wake up, for the people in power. I can't call them leaders because, frankly speaking, they haven't led us anywhere. But for the people in power to know that we've woken up. We've been labeled lazy youth. We've been protesting for over 10 days now, hours on end. This is simply the beginning of a new Nigeria, and it should be addressed as such.
What do you think has made this quite effective? And I mentioned being organic at the start. What do you think has made it, as successful at least as it has seemed in most parts of the country?
I think the effect of social media can't be downplayed because it's a means by which we're able to spread our message to the world at large, to Nigerians in diaspora, to celebrities here and outside the country with large following. They've been able to touch on the subject, to engage in the conversation, and thus shed light, put the spotlight on Nigeria, and in some way force and embarrass our government into action, into immediate action.
Do you think they're embarrassed?
Absolutely. I mean, I would be, but it doesn't end here. it needs to continue. I think the government hasn't taken us seriously, or they didn't take us seriously the first 2 days. They maybe thought, it's going for 48 hours and it'd be a phase and it'd go by the wayside. But I think we've shown in their disrespectful response the change that we want to see. Yeah. It's only enraged the youth more. It's poured petrol on fire. We've been through hell under SARS, no pun intended. And the youth banding together, coming together, only shows that the governments have no choice but to respond to our demands.
Awazi, let me come to you. Do you think the government is embarrassed?
I think they need more shame. Because if you were embarrassed and you were ready to do the work, you will not come on Twitter and be telling us at 11:25 p.m. that you have seen our hashtags and then use our little buzzwords. I think that if the government is embarrassed enough, then they would parade those killer cops. The way the Nigerian police likes to parade suspects and say that they are criminals, they will parade those cops. We have not seen them.
Yeah.
If they're embarrassed, they would actually start doing the work. Before they say that they want to call us to talk to us, they will start doing the work. We would start seeing that they have action plans and they have timelines. We are going to do this by the end of this week. And then we will know that, okay, this is the timeline that has been set in place and we'll hold you people accountable.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen that, so they're not embarrassed enough.
Like Tommy said, do you think, getting a check of all the 5 demands on that list would assuage people? And secondly, do you see government actually checking those things off?
I'm hoping the government checks those things off, because if they don't, well, the truth is Nigerian youth, by their doing, are not very employed. A lot of us, we're at home, huh? And then we have time. We have support. We have energy. We'll be there. We will demand. I think Nigerian youth have woken up, and it is time for us to stay awake and keep asking for the right things to be done. I don't know that once those 5 things are checked off, people will be off the streets, because the 5 things and those requests came up, and these protests have sparked up from decades of pain and grief and fear. It's not just SARS. It's not just the police, but at least that's there.
Yeah.
That's the place to start. We've told you, if you want to start, this is where to start. Let us see you taking. Let's do it.
The federal government has also, said that the state governors should set up, judicial panels of inquiry and all of that. We've had some state governors starting to do that. We had the River State governor saying that is not supposed to be our job, because I know that when we do this, we don't have the powers, to implement anything. So the state governments that are setting that up, we've seen Lagos State also talking about, arresting officers and trying to prosecute them. Does that help, or do you see a situation where certain states start to pull back, because certain state governors are doing a lot more than the others? Do you think that's going to be a case?
I think that the SARS issue, it's a federal issue. So many states, right now, we have multiple states across the Federation protesting, over, I would say, 20 states at the very least. What happens to the other states?
Yeah.
No, we say this on social media all the time. No one left behind. So we must all move. It does not start and end with Lagos or Abuja. It does not start and end with Osogbo. It is a lie. It doesn't end with River State. No way. We all go.
And that's what's important. Quickly, Tommy, before we go, are you hopeful about this entire movement?
I'm hopeful. I'm encouraged by the youthful exuberance of my colleagues and myself. It bodes well for the future, I think.
Okay.
If Nigerians can be as transparent, as driven, as motivated as the youth have shown this past couple of weeks, I think it bodes well for the country. Nigeria is heading in the right direction. Not by their doing. A lot of us have been educated to a certain degree, and we know what a developed country looks like. We know what that feels like. That's all we want. That's all we demand. We demand that of ourselves. Once we're put in leadership positions, I think Nigeria is going to get back to the country it's supposed to be. The moniker we've labeled ourselves as the Giants of Africa. I think the youth of Nigeria can actually propel the country to that status. As of yet, we're not there with the present government, but we'll get there, definitely.
Thank you very much, Tomi Banure. Thank you very much, Awazi. This
you.
conversation, I feel like, is just starting. I don't know how long the protests are going to be on for, but the conversation in itself is definitely going to be a long and ongoing one. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you, and thank you to Nigerian youth and women.